Hey guys, Rich Lopez with the Droptine Traditions Podcast, episode 130. My guest this evening is the illustrious Mr. Gene Hopkins. How you doing, Gene?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Rich?
It's great. Saturday morning, I'm on my third espresso, so
Ah,
this should be entertaining.
well, yeah, you'll be wired, ready to
Yeah,
go.
something there. But before we begin, I'm going to take care of some business here. I want to thank the supporters of the podcast, which is Traps Feather Rests, Traditional Bowhunter Magazine, Sauk Trail Archery, stickbowsupplies.com, Whiskey City Trad Gear. You can find them at wctrad.com, Jessie Savage Blacksmith.com, traditionaljunk.com, St. Joe River Bow Company, the Ethical Predator.com, and lastly, stickbowhuntsmx.com. So that being said, oh guys, and I will drop the links to your sites in the description of the video. So Jane, you've retired recently.
Yeah, I retired back in January. I thought, 43 years in the automotive industry, working with computers and artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and all that stuff. I just want to now spend time with simple things, sticks and strings.
Yeah, I get it, totally get it. I got about 11 months for me.
It'll go
Uh,
quick. It'll go quickly.
I hope, but then I hope the rest of the time goes slowly.
It goes quicker.
It's the worst.
Everything everybody told you about retirement, it's you wake up one day, you're retired. It takes you about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months to get used to it, to get in the swing. And then it just goes so quickly and you get so busy. My schedule is busier now than it was before I retired.
I guess that's a good thing, good problem to have because you're having fun. My hunting partner, John, he retired 10 years ago and he's busier now than he was when he was
That's
working.
true. I
Yeah.
totally believe it.
Hey,
I have to keep a calendar of where I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be doing. Even, I'm fly fishing on this river or I'm doing this or that. And I have to keep that in my calendar. Otherwise I double book things. Oh shit, I forgot.
well, yeah, that kind of happened with me this month for the podcast. That's why we're talking on a Saturday. Well, we screwed up on Tuesday. I screwed up and the recording didn't go down. So we're doing a redo, folks, which is a good thing for me because when I double book a week, I can move episodes ahead. So it gives me a day off. So,
You're a planner.
I'm,
Yeah,
I never used to be. I really never used to be. I always relied on my mom and my wife to do all
yeah.
that stuff for me. But now, I'm doing it a lot more and I kind of like it. It's, certain days I work in the shop, certain days I don't. Well, that's all dictated now by the humidity and the heat here. But
Well,
this
you
week,
control your own destiny. So that's good.
yeah, pretty much, pretty much. So this year you've attended quite a few events. You were Comptons. Did you go to ETAR?
I didn't go to ETAR because I had booked the Suffolk Archeries in Long Island, New
Oh,
York,
that's
Suffolk
right.
Archers in Long Island, New York, to do a talk for them. And I didn't realize at the time it was the same weekend as ETAR, but it worked out really well because I thoroughly enjoyed meeting the people there in Long Island.
Mhm.
And, Long Island, New York, what kind of, bow hunting club will they have? But it turned out they had one of the most beautiful clubs that I've been to anywhere. 22 acres, I think, or so on Long Island. Can you imagine?
You wouldn't think. You wouldn't
You
think.
wouldn't think that. And the clubhouse is spectacular. 500 members with a 3-year waiting list to get in the club.
Oh, wow.
And just great people.
Yeah, I've got close friends of mine that actually live in Brooklyn, New York,
Yeah.
and they're traditional bow hunters. Who would ever think a traditional
Yeah.
bow hunter
Yeah.
would live in
Right.
Brooklyn? There's
Yeah.
lots of them. There's lots of them.
Well, we had driving back across the George Washington Bridge and all that to go home. That was, I, they're welcome. It's a beautiful place, but I was glad to get back into Indiana.
Well, it's funny. I used to work in New York City because I was born and raised in New Jersey, and I would take that George Washington Bridge every day.
I pity
And,
you.
well, it was not like today. It's back then it was bad, but it's like I hear it's tenfold,
Well,
from the stuff.
I drove home on a Sunday morning or something, and I thought, well, it'll be okay on Sunday morning. There won't be much traffic. It was worse than it was going in.
Yeah. You remember the movie Escape from New York?
Never thought.
That's what it is. People are escaping New York to go to Jersey, to go shopping, really. That's where the shopping is at.
Yeah. Okay.
So All right. Prior to that shoot, you had the Compton gathering. How did that go?
Compton was fantastic. The rendezvous there at Berrien Springs has always been a wonderful event. The club there, we've been there for 25 years. It's hard to imagine. The first one was in 2000. This was our 25th anniversary of being there in Berrien Springs, Michigan. Um, the weather is always warm, but it was dry, so just
Hmm.
typical Midwest, warm and a bit humid, We wish it were October, but it's not. It's the middle of summer in Michigan. It's going to be warm. It's going to be humid, but the crowd was crazy. The campground was full. The vendors were packed. The shooters, I don't know how many they had, but it was fantastic. And as that was our last year at Berrien Springs. The club decided a year ago, and they told us a year ago that, hey, we've been doing this 25 years. The club, when I say the club, I'm talking about the Berrien County Sportsman's Club. They said, we've been doing this for 25 years, hosting you. We've had a great time. It's been a great partnership, but we're tired. Would you find someplace different going forward? Because we're not getting new kids coming in, new people coming in to help us. 25 years is enough. Thank you. So we went out, looking for a new place. And I think a lot of people now know that we found a new place in Noblesville, Indiana, just north of Indianapolis. It's going to be great. We've been doing a lot of work getting ready for that. And I hope everybody puts it on their calendar, same weekend next year, to be in Noblesville, Indiana, instead of Berrien Springs, Michigan.
Well, it's easy for me because I could fly into Indianapolis and get my rental and just,
That's right.
yeah.
Well, you just about Uber from the airport up to Noblesville. It's
Yeah.
it's very convenient.
I know a couple of buddies that live up that way could probably pick me up. So I'm sure that'd be fine.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I looked into plane tickets for Indy and from Orlando to Indianapolis, I can hop a flight for $100 round trip.
Indianapolis, yeah, I fly out of Indy a lot, obviously. I live about an hour south of Indy. It's one of the cheaper airports around, and it's one of the better airports around. It's very organized, very efficient.
Mhm.
It voted number one airport in the country several years in a row. I think you'll find it to be a really good experience.
Yep. Awesome. Looking forward to that. Now, you did a speaking engagement as well.
I did not at
Oh, no?
Compton.
No.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told you things come quickly, and I forget a lot of times what I do and where I do them. But yeah, I did. Um, Brian Burkhart was, he's now the past president. He was president at the time. Asked me if I would do a talk on the Chief Compton. The Compton Bowhunters, Compton Traditional Bowhunters. Why did we name it Compton? Who
Mhm.
is this guy? So it's really he's a fascinating guy. When you really go back and look at it, Compton is the guy that got Pope and Young interested in modern, what we at then 19 teens, modern equipment, English style longbows. They'd been Pope had been working with Ishii and learning Ishii's bows and arrows, Native American style and all that. But Compton comes along, meets Pope, meets Young, meets Ishii, but he brings with him the at that time modern archery equipment, the English D-section longbows, horn knocks, and he teaches Pope how to make bows. He teaches Young how to make bows. So it could very well have been, the Pope and Compton Club, or he was that
Right.
significant. If you read some of the early writings about Compton, they talk about him as he was the guy that pulled it all together for everyone. He was the one who made it happen. Pope just had great writing skills. Pope had great speaking skills. Art had a vision for doing movies and getting out there and doing public tours and speaking engagements and things like that, which Compton didn't like to do. But as far as getting them off the ground, Compton was the man.
That's interesting. And I've read about Compton quite a bit actually, because I have an extensive library, as you do most of us as traditional archers. Now, what was the other event you had prior to that?
Oh, let's see. This year I did. Again, I got to stretch my memory back here. I did New York. I did three different talks at the Pope and Young convention in
Right.
Phoenix, um, which went really well. That's a different crowd. It's not the Compton crowd or the PBS crowd, but still, it's a good crowd, good people. I have a lot of friends there, and I've been with Pope and Young since 1981, I think, as a member. So they asked me if I would do some presentations, and I did a couple of presentations that I titled them "How We Got Here," and I wanted that to be kind of a intriguing title. What do you mean? How did we get here? I took an airplane, you silly idiot. No, I meant how did we get here? Why are you here? And I went through the evolution and the history and all the things that it took for us to form together as this thing we now call bow hunting. And we all agree, everybody listening would agree, it's not a hobby, it's not a sport, it's a lifestyle, it's a culture. So how did that come about? What events and what people come together to make this culture, this lifestyle that we call bow hunting happen? So I did those presentations, and then I did a presentation at lunch on Friday. Joe St. Charles had found in his closet the original film from the 1957 Little Delta hunt that his father Glenn had taken. Glenn went up there in 1957 to pioneer bow hunting in Alaska, because in 1957 they had recently passed laws that made it legal for you to go up there and do DIY, do it yourself bow hunting. Before then, yeah, people went up, but you had to hire a guide. It was very expensive. Very few people went, and most of them were rifle hunters, if not, the high majority of them were rifle hunters. So now they passed a law in 1957 that you can do a DIY. Glenn went up there with the sole purpose of video, or making a movie, not a video, but making a movie about his hunt, which turned into didn't start out as turned into the Little Delta hunts. But Joe found the reels. He found two reels, movie reels of that, which had never been seen before, and he digitized them. And he's got the intent to, and he will put those out commercially. But he sent them to me, the digitized versions of them, and I edited them down into a 30-minute lunch presentation, so people were able to see for the first time what turned out to be the 1957 Little Delta hunts, which was the first trip to Little Delta. It was Keith Clemens, Dick Bolding, and Glenn St. Charles. And in the end, it turned out so well when, Fred Bear and others said, hey, I want to go. So in 1958, then we all know the stories of Fred going back to Little Delta, and we see the pictures of them crossing the Little Deltas on the tree that they had fallen. So that's what was my lunch presentation. That was very well received.
I would imagine. I wish I was a fly on the wall, so to speak.
Well, I still have it, so we can show that video somewhere else sometime.
Yeah, that'd be nice to see at the upcoming PBS banquet.
Yeah, yeah, and gosh, again, I have to go back. When I do one and I'm finished with one, I always start thinking about the next one.
Right.
One of the things I like to do, and I try very hard to do, is when I do a presentation, I don't do the same presentation twice. So my mind is now on what's next. So now I'm going to be doing the Wisconsin traditional bow hunters, Wisconsin traditional archers, next February, March. And I'm going to be doing the PBS convention in Indianapolis. I'm going to be doing a Friday night presentation there, working with Ethan now, Ethan Rodriguez. He's the president now. And we're coming up with a topic. What are we going to talk about on Friday night or Friday dinner? And so it'll be a surprise because I don't even know yet what we'll be talking about.
Right. Yeah. I already looked into the tickets and I already booked my room. So you'll see me.
Good deal.
Now, for fun, you hunted Mexico.
Oh, I love Mexico.
That was
really,
February, right?
Truly love Mexico. I've been hunting down there now almost 10 years, I think. I started hunting over in Sonora for Coues deer. Some people call it cow's deer. Some people call it Coues deer. Officially, it's cow's deer, but we all call it Coues deer. I started hunting down there for cow's deer about 10 years ago and made really good friends with the guy that I hunt with down there. He's small. He doesn't want to be big. He takes just a few people a year. And he lives, breathes, eats Coues deer. That's all he does, 365 days a year. If it's not hunting season, he's out building drinkers. He's out building habitat. this he's Mr. Coos deer. And then he had so many javelina. I told you his name's Tashi. I said, Tashi, why don't we start hunting the javelina? I know a lot of guys that would like to hunt these javelina. You have so many, and you don't hunt them. And he's got on this one ranch that I hunt. He's got several ranches, but the one that I like is 50,000 acres, private owned, one owner, 78 square miles, 50,000 acres, right?
It's insane.
And there's several times I've been there. I'm the only guy. I'm the only guy on 50,000 acres. We have a blast. I love Tashi. I love his family. Jack, the owner. I love Jack. And so anyhow, we ended up taking a group down there for Javelina this past February, and they loved it. And we're all going back this year. And the second group I set up to go on the second week of February, and they went down and they loved it. They're all going back. And then I started hunting central Mexico over. You hunt Durango with Stickbow MX. Well, the state above Durango is Nuevo Leon. So I hunted with Brian Burkhart and Jim Eckhout in Nuevo Leon, which is Monterey. If you look on the map, it's the city of Monterey. We hunted there for whitetail and javelina and wild pigs this past year. And we'll be going back there again this next year. So yeah, Mexico is a great place. It's not that many people, not that many bow hunters go there. You land at the airport and there'll be people in the line to go through customs, but they're mostly bird hunting, dove hunting,
Right.
or they're down there, coming in for the sheep hunting over on the coast or something like that. But you just don't get a lot of traffic for what we do.
Yeah, for me it was easy. I just flew from Orlando to Dallas, took my connector right into Durango, and boom,
Yeah.
and the guy was waiting for me.
Yeah. And the people down there are so fun. It's the culture of the people, their lifestyle and everything. It's all about fun and it's all about family.
Yeah, I found it exhilarating. Well, it was entertaining for me. As soon as I started speaking Spanish, customs are looking at me like, really? Thank you.
Yeah.
They were like,
Yeah.
this is going to go good. And they're opening up my stuff. They're looking at this takedown bow and these arrows. They're like, what are you going to do with this? And I tell them in Spanish, I'm going bow hunting for javelinas. And they look at me. They started taking pictures of my bow because they had never seen, because it was kind of new, the traditional scene there.
Yeah.
And, next thing you know, high fives, tienen
Yeah.
buen día.
Yeah.
Gracias para todo, all that stuff,
Yeah. I try to speak Spanish. They laugh at me.
Well, they were entertained by mine because it's not the greatest. Although I'm Puerto Rican and Colombian, I don't look it. But
Well, I'm purebred Hoosier, so my Hoosier accent and my Spanish don't go along well together.
Yeah, you betcha. So, so that was great. And what I did not, I didn't expect it. At 6,000 feet above sea level and the dry, arid air, that I would experience profuse nosebleeds every day.
Yeah, it's dry.
Yeah.
But it's cool in the evenings and nights. Sometimes it's cool enough you're going to have to wear a jacket, when you go to the blind. And then by 10 o'clock, you're taking everything off and you're down to your socks.
Well, yeah, there was a day I got up that morning and I had two jackets on because, I always wear layers. So I had all these layers on and you could see your breath in the morning.
Yeah.
When a guy's taking you out to your blind. I got to the blind within an hour, 2 hours of the sun being up, shedding clothes left and right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Then the skies are so clear and the night skies, Montana, Alaska, you can see some beautiful night skies, but wow, in Mexico, the night skies are just magnificent.
Insane. I had to get up and visit Mother Nature middle of the night, the typical midlife thing. I said, I'm going to go outside and see what's going on. So I go out there and it was amazing. It was almost like somebody took white paint on a paintbrush and just flicked it on a black canvas.
Yeah.
It was insane.
So many more stars in the sky.
Yep. And shooting stars. I saw quite a few.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the hunting down there is fantastic. When I first started hunting down there for Coues deer, I thought, my Coues deer knowledge at that time was pretty limited from what I'd read in old Jack O'Connor articles back in the 60s in Outdoor Life, the gray ghost of the desert and all this, and you're lucky to see one and all this. And so I had it in my mind, if I got to see one, I'd have a successful hunt. And as luck would have it, I ended up seeing quite a few, and I ended up taking one down there on that first hunt. But the number of deer exceeded my expectations a lot. And then you'll see bobcats, you'll see mountain lions, you'll
Mhm.
see a lot of coyotes. Just the wildlife is, it's just a great place to go.
Yeah, when I was there, I talked to the landowner. He's like, "You see a coyote, you just shoot it." Yeah,
Yeah, there's so many of them.
yeah,
They just run around in the daytime like dogs.
hmm yeah, and yeah, literally. Um, so what do you got going on this year? What's coming up? Well, we have PBS banquet, and you're going back to Mexico for 26.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And again, I have to get my calendar out to look because I catch myself all the time double booking. But I'm starting here in just a few weeks. I'm going to start with some sharp-tailed grouse down in North Dakota. I've gotten in. I love grouse hunting. Side-by-side shotgun. I just love grouse hunting. And then we'll be going to the UP of Michigan with Austin and Courtney Mott
Mhm.
in October, middle of October for ruffed grouse. And then I'm going back to Maryland for whitetail. Fantastic state for whitetail. Talk
Mhm.
about sleeper states. Maryland is
Yeah,
really good.
I know it all too well.
Yeah. And then I've got 4,500 acres down in Florida that I leased with some friends down there around Gainesville. So I'll be down your way hunting whitetails and pigs and then turkey.
It's funny. I moved down to Florida 4 years ago last month, and I'm in Central Florida outside of Daytona Beach. But I've spent a lot of time in Gainesville for whatever reasons, and I fell in love with that area. If I was to do it over again, I would have chosen that.
Yeah. Well, you got bear archery there, so that would fit right in with you.
Yeah.
But then I've got two bear hunts booked. I've got Saskatchewan, and then I've got Alaska booked for black bear next spring, and then I've got another turkey hunt going back to Florida. And we always do several turkey hunts in the spring. So which states I will do, I'm not sure yet.
Now you've hunted turkeys here in Florida before, correct?
Yeah.
Now I found that they are not very responsive to calling, not like the eastern birds, the northeast, mid Atlantic birds that I chased.
I think it depends on where you go. I think that's true. Any turkey you hunt, it depends on where you go. Are you on public land, private land? How hard have they been hunted?
Mhm.
The first time I hunted Osceola was in Florida. It was back in, gosh, 85, 86, somewhere in there. And man, you couldn't buy a gobble. But I was hunting public land and there were a lot of pressure and the birds might gobble right at fly down one or two times. And then that was it for the day.
Right.
Then I've been on private ground down there where they gobble just like they do anywhere else.
Okay.
But it all depends on how much pressure they've got, I think. And the pressure is not just people, but pressure is also predators. Here in Indiana, we've got a lot of coyotes and we've got a lot of bobcats. I've witnessed and I've experienced turkeys. They'll shut up when a coyote's in the area. They'll really shut up when a bobcat's in the area.
Mhm.
So pressure can be people. It can also be predators that are
Yeah.
not people.
We've got a lot of bobcat and coyotes here in Florida. So,
Yeah. I see you're going to have a bear season too, huh?
yes, yes, first one in 10 years.
Hey, good
But
deal.
it's actually going to be going on in my county. So, as far as the details are concerned, I don't know if it's private land or public or both or what.
Yeah,
I'm,
I'm
I'm I
anxious too because we have bear on our lease.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a private land type deal, like they do in Maryland.
Okay.
You're allowed to take 200 bears a year, only on private property.
Yeah.
And here, I think the number is 187. Where they came up with that number, I have no idea.
Yeah. Some kind of algorithm.
Yeah, everything's an algorithm, but we shall see. I mean, there's opposition on both sides. You hear it all day long in the news and the media,
Right.
and I'm like, it's just people just
Yeah.
voicing their opinions. That's all.
Well, there's always got to be drama. If there weren't
Yeah.
dramas, people wouldn't have the jobs they have.
Yeah, right. And look at New Jersey and their bear hunts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always drama. My late sister, believe it or not, was an anti-hunter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting Thanksgiving dinners.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny because I took her son hunting Thanksgiving morning, and I showed up back up at the house with two grouse.
Yeah.
And she's like mortified, but yet she's tearing into the turkey. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, her son had fun, huh?
he had a blast.
Good deal. Good for
Literally,
you.
because it was shotgun hunt. So
Yeah. Good for you.
yeah, so it was good. So earlier in the week, you and I spoke. You said you were going to show us some eye candy.
Yeah, yeah, there's always some fun things coming in. So I'm going to pick up the phone. I don't know. I hope this works well. We're going to walk over and we're going to look around at some things. So tell me if this doesn't work, but we're going to walk over to another part of the room.
Yeah.
I've
Wow.
got some things set out here that were just recent things that came in. So, you had asked me what has come in recently that maybe nobody's seen yet. So I'm going to go through a few things that are laying here on the table that I haven't even got into I keep everything in a spreadsheet. So, if that bus ever did hit me, my wife would have the spreadsheet to go through and what is this and where did I get it and how much did I pay for it
Okay.
and that kind of thing to help her out. But I just got this in yesterday, so I'm going to hold it up here real close. But
Okay.
if you can see this,
Yeah. 1986 signed. Wow.
okay, this is a arrow that the late Dr. Glenn Parker
Oh yeah.
used to kill an alligator. So I just got this in from Joe St. Charles. Glenn was a friend of mine. Glenn was a great guy. And when I was getting started in collecting back in the 1980s, Glenn was one of the guys that I considered to be the man.
Hmm.
There were several, Bill McCreary and Larry Whiffen, Clark Gallup. But Glenn Parker was one of the guys that I really looked up to, and he really helped me out a lot when I was getting started. So, he killed an alligator with that head. You can see it's broken. The alligator probably did a roll on it and killed it. But that's going to go. I'm going to create a new box for that. And then I say, hey Joe, I've got so many Glenn St. Charles arrows, but I don't have a Joe St. Charles arrow. So there's my
Oh yeah.
recently added Joe St. Charles arrow. It's
Hmm.
He signed and hunted. This is a kill arrow. And then I got a couple of bows here I thought you might enjoy.
Did I ever send you an arrow?
No, you haven't yet, you dog.
Really? Oh God. I'll do that this week.
So one of the guys that I always enjoyed reading about was Forrest Nagler. This bow was made by Forrest Nagler. He was back in the 30s, 40s.
Hmm.
And Nagler wrote a book, well, he wrote a couple of books, but one was Bow and Arrow for Big Game. And he wrote another one, Archery and Engineering View. Um, he and Hickman and Klopsteg were all scientists during the war, World War II, and they would shoot their bows when they were not doing their science work. They would go out on the desert and shoot their bows together. So during the day, they're building bombs, and in the evenings, they're out shooting bows. So this is one of Forrest Nagler's handmade bows. I'm going to be building a box for that.
Now, is that Osage or
Yeah,
Hickory?
that was an Osage bow. Here's another Osage. Now this is a U bow. That was Ebud Pearson. Um,
Hmm.
Ebud Pearson, I never met Ebud. He passed away before I got to meet him, but I met Charlie, his son. And they were over around Cincinnati. And we have the steam tips and everything.
Is
And
that a Ford? Is that a Fortison backing?
no, that's a U. So
You?
it's got the sapwood
Okay.
on the back.
Okay.
Um, yeah, Charlie was about the same age as Glenn St. Charles.
Hmm.
So I went over to Charlie's house with Glenn and Joe one time. And Charlie he was like me. He was a pack rat. He had everything. I think he had every broken arrow he ever shot in his life.
Hmm.
But we went over there and spent the day with him one time. So Charlie was a good friend, turned out to be a good friend of mine. And so I really enjoy his bows. I enjoy anything of Charlie's. And this one I think you'll enjoy. I don't think hardly anybody, unless Joe or Jay St. Charles are watching and listening, will know what this bow is. Do you have any idea?
No, I'll say
Okay.
I'll plead ignorance.
Yeah, even the kind of wood. What kind of wood is that? I think most people are going to go, I don't know. But this bow I got it off eBay actually.
Huh.
It's in the late 80s. Duke Savora was going to make bows,
Oh,
and he had these bows made of diamond wood,
okay.
Dymon, diamond wood. It's a really dense hardwood. It's kind of a laminated, and then Duke died, and these bows were on the shelf when Duke died. And Glenn and Jay bought these bows from Duke's estate from his wife, basically. And they finished them out and sold them as St. Charles bows. So it's actually
Okay.
a St. Charles bow that started out as a Duke Savora bow.
Gotcha.
And there were only about 12 of them made. So that one was a recent addition. And I got one more back here I want to share.
Hey,
I think.
we have a guest star here.
Oh, hey, how are you, Lisa?
Hi.
You
How are
going
you
to
doing
work?
today?
Yeah, I'm going to work.
All right, she's going to work.
All right, bye.
Uh,
Bye, hon. I'll see you later.
We'll see you in Indianapolis. So,
Yep.
okay.
Close it.
Here
Oh
we
yeah.
go. This is another very special bow. This was an Asbel. And Fred was going to make a takedown bow. This is back before, obviously, the takedowns we all know. He wanted to make a takedown bow with a quick detach latch like Fred had, like Fred Bear did. So he and Bob Pitt worked together to make a couple of prototypes on a see the limb attachment here, the clip.
Right. Okay, I get it.
So he only made two of these prototypes, and I showed this to Fred Asbel when Fred was still around. And he said, "Yeah, I remember those. Pitt and I made those, and it just didn't work out right like we wanted it to. So we never went into production with it, and we changed it and came out with the one that everybody knows."
Mhm.
He said, "I only made one of those, and I know where that one's at." And I said, "Well, no, Fred, you made two of them." He thought and he thought, and he said, "Yeah, I did. I made two of those. So here's the second one."
Okay.
That's a pretty cool bow.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing. Now the limbs that fit in there, were they just
Here's the
yeah,
limbs.
okay, they're similar to the bears
Yeah. So we've got the little
and locator.
locator,
Hmm.
and they just slid in there, just like a bear does.
Hmm. How
So
many
very,
how many pounds are those?
they're camo painted, and so I don't know if there's any weight written on them. But looking at them and feeling them, they're stiff. They're a typical bighorn, 70-pound
Yeah.
air, ballpark. So I haven't shot that bow.
Yeah, because when I bought my first custom bow was a bighorn that Fred made,
Yeah.
and I ordered 63 pounds at the time because I was shooting an 80-pound compound.
Yeah.
I should have gotten 45
Yeah.
pound. Yeah, I was like, what is this? Yeah. So I did from
Yeah.
that bow, I developed the worst target panic ever.
Yeah. Well, let's take a walk. I want to show you a couple other things.
Yeah.
So again, I hope this walking around with the phone.
Oh, this is
working
fine.
okay.
This is great, man.
But can you see into the case here? Can you see the red?
Yes.
Now I'm not able to see the screen now.
No, that's okay. Oh, you're looking right at it.
Okay, so you can see the little napped point there in red
Yes.
on the red background.
Yes.
Okay, that is an authentic, real deal Ishii point. Ishii made that point when Ishii was at the University of California museum there, anthropology museum, while he was alive from 1911 to 1916. And when people would come in to visit Ishii, he would take broken glass and he would turn them into points. And that is one that he made. And then he would give those to the visitor and as a gift, thank you for coming and seeing me. And here's my gift to you. So I think
That's amazing.
that's pretty cool. And then we have, I like oddball stuff. So I mentioned Klopsteg earlier. These
Yeah.
are the only broadheads. They were broadheads on the end of these little, looked like crossbow bolts, but he had a special little machine that he shot these out of. And these were actually made for the war in World War II. These were actually designed to kill German troops and German sentry dogs. So these are the only broadhead ever made to, explicitly made to just
For
kill
warfare.
somebody.
Right.
Yeah, for warfare.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I've been trying to get ready for PBS, so putting together some new displays.
Yeah, that's a new display you put together.
Yeah, that's a new one I just put together on the Wilhelm brothers. And I've got
Now, people, for those who don't know, the Wilhelm brothers were trick shooters, I believe, and
Yep.
one would shoot the biscuit out of the other's mouth.
they would
That's-
shoot. They were just
They were
they
crazy.
were crazy. The two brothers, Walt and Ken, they would go so far as they would put an apple on the other guy's head and shoot the apple off. And well, that was too easy. And then so they'd move down to something smaller. And then, oh, that was too easy. And then they moved down to eventually they were shooting like buttons off each other's heads with
Oh,
a bow and arrow.
yeah, that's crazy.
And you can go out on YouTube and pull up the videos on the Wilhelm brothers and watch those old black and white videos on YouTube. But they had a jalopy they made. They made two actually, one called Leapin' and the other called the Prowler. And they would drive those across the desert. I think you can see, a
Yeah,
picture of, they drive those across the desert and they had the platforms built on the top and they would just drive around and shoot jackrabbits and just have fun and just, be silly. And then they would make movies of it and they would bring it back and then show it in the theaters. Just like you go to the movie when we grew up, you'd watch a cartoon. Well, back in the 50s, they watched the Wilhelm brothers. They
yeah,
watched Howard Hill doing some movie shorts.
that's awesome.
There's a couple of their arrows, and they were also really good with blowguns. So they did a lot of trick shooting with blowguns.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I put together a couple of displays for the Archery Hall of Fame members. This one here, starting with the first class in 1972 of the Archery Hall of Fame, I have personal arrows of Fred Bear and Howard Hill, Ben Pearson, both Thompson brothers, Pope, Young, Harry Drake, Earl Hoyt Jr., all the people that were inducted into the Hall of Fame. So I've been trying to collect an arrow, a personal arrow of each of them and make a display of it. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
So people can see, what kind of arrow did they use? What kind of broadhead did they use? Well, here we go.
yeah. They didn't do like the bear shaft testing,
Yeah.
like you see today.
Yeah. And I want to go back here. If you've been to some of the shows I've been at, you've seen,
Oh yeah,
these are my Saxton Pope arrows. These are all Saxton Pope's personal arrows. They're not replicas or anything like that. They're the real deal. And then we have Art's arrows down here. Sorry for the mess. I'm doing the Chet Stevenson look here in my collection. But over here, I want to go through this. I told you, I've told several people the story of the Compton
hmm
bows that I got recently. Can you see the bottom bow there is Chief Compton's bow?
yes,
Can you see the arrowhead drawn on it?
yes. Right by the
Okay.
handle, by the grip.
All right. Yeah. And then you can see the bow above that is Saxton Pope's personal bow. And you can see it's named Bighorn and it's got the date 1924 and it's got the same arrowhead on it. Right? You can
Yeah.
see that?
hmm
Okay. And then Art's bow is above that. But the story of that I want to tell is several months ago, I got a phone call from a guy and he said, I didn't know him and he didn't know me other than he found me on the internet doing some Google work. And he said, do you know of a guy named Will Compton? And I said, yeah. He said, well, I'm going to tell you a story about Will Compton. When Will's wife died, 1933, his last wife, he moved in with my grandfather and lived with my grandfather until until Will died in 1938 out in California. And when Will died, he left everything. Will died suddenly. Uh, so there wasn't time to make plans and everything. He left all his archery equipment there with my grandfather. And then my grandfather gave it to my dad. My dad gave it to me. I now live in Connecticut and I'm looking for somebody that would appreciate this. And, I found you and several people had told me about you and would you be interested in this? So I made a deal with him and I ended up getting what I call, Compton's archery estate because there were 7 bows of Compton's, his quiver, all his arrows, some broadheads and several letters from Pope and from Young to Compton. But this one bow here is in particular, I think you can see on the top of the handle of the grip, you can see WJC. He had initialed it. This was his personal bow.
hmm
And when I got the bow, I saw that arrowhead and I'd forgotten about the Pope bow above that. I'd forgotten it had an arrowhead on it too. And I looked at that and I said, well, that the handwriting, the hand is too steady. That wasn't Compton that did that. And in my mind, I'm thinking that's got to be Pope that did that.
Right.
And I can imagine, I can picture, my imagination's pretty good. I can think that maybe Pope and Young and Compton are sitting around the campfire after Ishii passed away. And they're talking about the good old days. And Pope says, hand me your bow, Will. And Will gives him the bow. And Pope draws that on there and then writes Ishi above it.
Okay.
So I think, that was a tribute that they probably did to their good friend Ishi who'd passed. And then I got to thinking later and I thought, wow, that Pope bow's got an arrowhead on it, doesn't it? So I got it out and I looked and that's the same arrowhead, right? So I think that kind of corroborates my theory that Pope did the drawing on Compton's bow there and wrote Ishi on it, and they were doing that in tribute to their good friend. So
Awesome. That's awesome.
so yeah, so then why not? Let's put them all together in a display. So I put this display together, and I think that's pretty neat.
And that picture, the 8x10 black and white photo in there, is that the three of them together?
That's the three of them together over here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they spent a lot of time together. After Ishi passed, they continued to make bow and arrows, and hunting with bow and arrow a big part of their life. And I think all of us know that, Pope, Young, they went off to Alaska and hunted. They went to Yellowstone and hunted, and they went to Africa and hunted in 1925, just before Pope passed away in 1926. So they wrote some books and they wrote a lot of magazine articles. But Compton, he was one of those guys that, I've got a family, I've got a business, and I've got my kids, my grandkids. I really can't go. So he didn't go, and he didn't
So
really.
when they
Yeah,
went to Africa, they were middle-aged, weren't they?
Well, Pope was 50
Yeah, it's middle-aged.
something when he passed. So yeah, he would have been early 50s when he went to Africa.
Mhm.
But Compton didn't go. He just didn't care for the publicity. He loved the sport and he loved to promote the sport. He was a great promoter of the sport. But as far as writing magazine articles or doing books and things like that, he said, that's just not me. So he left that to Pope and Art. But I think that's pretty cool. The three of them coming together all because of Ishi. Pope was the medical doctor that was assigned to Ishi after Ishi came to the University of California. And Pope had an interest in archery, but he wasn't into archery yet until it was 1912. When Ishi came down in 1911, August, and he met Pope in the first week of September 1911 when he was made his doctor. But they really didn't spend a lot of time together. They were just doctor-patient relationship until one morning in 1912, spring of 1912, Pope looked down his office window and he saw Ishi in the yard out there shooting his bow and arrow. So Pope just left his office and he went out there in the yard with Ishi and he just started talking to Ishi. By that time, Ishi had learned a few hundred words of English. So he was able to communicate enough. And they talked, and Pope and Ishi started shooting a bow. And then just about every day, Pope would meet Ishi out in the yard and they would shoot. So that's how Pope got into archery. And then Pope and Ishi, then famously went up into where Ishi was born and Ishi lived, and Ishi showed them all the places that he hunted, where he grew up, and all that. That was in 1914. And then Ishi gets tuberculosis and dies in 1916. But during that time, Ishi is headline news all across the country. Last wild man found in California, and everybody wants to meet Ishi. Well, Compton's one of those guys, and Compton comes down to meet Ishi. And Ishi is he's one of the exhibits, and it's probably not the proper way to say it, but he's one of the exhibits at a show in California, the Pan Pacific Exhibition in 1915. And so Compton comes down to see Ishi. And while he's there, and he goes to the Japanese archery exhibit there at the Pan Pacific and looks at the Japanese bows and arrows. And while he's there, he sees this tall, good-looking guy, and he introduces himself and he says, "Are you interested in archery?" And the guy said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, my name's Will Compton." The other guy says, "Well, my name's Art Young." So that's how Art got into the mix there. And then Compton says, "Hey, why don't you, let's go see Ishi, and I'll introduce you to this other guy named Pope." So now they're all fast friends from there on out until Ishi passes. So it's just that all those things coming together, kind of a happenstance, but without all of those things, we might not have the bow hunting that we know today. The history would be quite different than what we know today.
Right. Now, the Thompson brothers were prior to them. They were in the late 1800s.
Yeah, the Thompson brothers, they fought during the Civil War. They fought on the side of the South, but after the war, they came back to Crawfordsville, Indiana. And Morris Thompson was an author. And I'll walk over here while we're telling this story, and I'll show you some Thompson brother things. But Morris Thompson was an author, and okay, so here we go. I don't know, the glare here might be too much, but
No,
that's
I can make it out.
okay. That's Will Thompson's bow and Will Thompson's arrow. But they did a lot of hunting with a bow and arrow down in the swamps in the Everglades and the Okefenokee of Georgia, and they would write magazine articles and they would send them back up north to be published in Harper's and some of the big magazines of the day, and they were so popular that the publishers convinced them to put them into a book. I'm going to open this up. Again, I'm going for the Chet Stevenson look here, so there's a lot of clutter. They wrote a book, and they published this book in 1878 called The Witchery of Archery.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a first edition. All these books in this case are Thompson Brothers books. So you think about Morris Thompson, you think he only wrote Witchery of Archery. No, he wrote at least 29 different books that I know about. But this is The Witchery of Archery, 1878. That's a first edition. It's green on the cover. And I want to show something here. So I'm going to go over and put my tripod down so you can see this. It's not this one, it's a different one. You have to find the right copy. This is it. Okay. So we see 1878 Witchery of Archery, first edition.
Wow.
Signed by Morris.
Wow.
So that's a special book. That's the only one that I know of that's signed by the author.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd read once, there were only about 300 copies printed of the first edition. So, they're pretty rare to begin with, but to have one signed by the author is pretty special.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a big deal. There was a lot of Thompson. He even had cigar boxes that were made to promote the cigar using him as a spokesman.
Amazing.
These are all the Thompson brothers books.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we have on the bottom down here again. Sorry for the clutter, but I built this room 25 years ago. It's 28 by 40. I thought that would be enough. It's not nearly enough.
No.
But these are all the Easton bows, and I think people talk a lot about Grumley being a master bowyer and maybe one of the finest, if not the finest bowyer ever.
Yeah.
I think Doug Easton's right up there with him. Some of these Easton bows are spectacularly made.
Yeah, people seem to forget about they hear Easton and they think of arrows.
Yeah. Yeah, he was, and he got started. Doug Easton got started because he was rabbit hunting as a teenager, and somebody set their shotgun when they came back. They set their shotgun down against the side of the car, and it fell over and discharged, and he was shot in the legs.
Oh my God!
So he spent about a year in the hospital, different surgeries, getting fixed up. And while he was in the hospital, somebody brought him a copy of Pope's Hunting with the Bow and Arrow, 1923 copy, and that got Doug Easton interested in archery. And so when he got better and he got out, he started Easton Archery. And so you see Easton Archery celebrating archery since 1923. And, if it hadn't been for Sexton Pope, if it hadn't been for Ishii, if it hadn't been for Compton, Doug Easton probably wouldn't have gotten into archery.
Well, yeah. By being shot by a shotgun, the whole thing is, I mean, that's very weird. But we're glad. I mean, it's amazing stuff. I've got some Easton stuff around here somewhere. I have a room that's cluttered, and I have two more bedrooms that are cluttered with archery stuff, but it just keeps loading it up. I keep
Yeah.
wanting to get rid of stuff, but more stuff comes in.
Well, that's the fun part though. It's discovery.
Hmm.
That's the fun part of archery collecting and bow hunting collecting is the discovery. There's still so much out there to be found. So many people tell me, you were lucky you got started back when, this stuff was easy to find. Well, yes and no. Yes, it was easier to find because there weren't that many people collecting. I didn't know anybody that collected back when I started. I thought I might be the only one. Um, but we didn't have the internet. We didn't have eBay. We
Right,
didn't
right,
have all these, different places to go to like Kalamazoo where you can meet other collectors. We didn't have the ABCC, American Broadhead Collectors Club. We didn't have all those ways for people to get together and build networks of collectors. So yes, in one way it was easier because there were a lot of unpicked fields, but in other ways it was hard because you didn't know where everything was.
right. I mean, I got started in archery just because my uncle shot archery. So I had a bow and arrow set that he gave me. And one day my mom was going to get her hair done, and I knew there was an archery range up in that area. I said, "Why don't you drop me off at the archery range?" I think I was 13 or 14.
Yeah,
And I'm there at the archery range. It was back when you could just drop your kid off somewhere and you wouldn't have to worry about people kidnapping. So I'm there and I'm shooting. I see this guy, he's kind of hip looking, older guy. And I see him shooting this bow that looks really cool. It turns out to be a bear takedown.
yeah,
So I went, "Hey, mister," and I started talking to him. He introduced himself, and it was the late Al Reeder, the collector,
yeah.
who he and
Great
I
guy.
became fast friends. And turns out when I graduated high school, he only lived about 2 or 3 miles from my house. So it was no big deal for me to ride my bike over there. I wound up going to college at a university, not even a mile from his house. So I would skip classes and go hang out with him because he worked night shifts in a printing company, and I worked part time in a printing company. We had so much in common; it was crazy.
Yeah,
And of course, I naturally collected bears because of him. But then, as I got older, I discovered the other manufacturers out there: Damon Howard, Ben Pearson, Wing, um, Morris Archery, the California Bowyers. Just incredible stuff. And I just started buying everything I could get my hands on. And like you said, back then there was no internet, so everything was going to yard sales, riding my bike. I'd come home with an armload of bows, pay like $2 for this, $2 for that. I remember paying $5 for a 1959 Kodiak.
oh yeah,
You know,
yeah. What a
I,
day.
I still have that bow,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
but, yeah, it
You know,
was
my
it's
my introduction to archery was a little different. My dad didn't hunt. My dad was, he grew up in the coal mines of Harlan County, Kentucky, back during the Depression. He was born in 1932, and if you know anything about Kentucky and southeastern Kentucky, that was the poorest of the poor. And growing up as a coal miner in Harlan County in the middle of the Great Depression, there was no money. So you didn't have money for bows or arrows or even rifles or even ammunition. And even if you did, it didn't matter because everybody else was starving too. And every squirrel and every rabbit,
it
they
was
were killing everything they could find to eat. So my dad, and then he went off to Korea and fought as a Marine in Korea. And so he never understood. He didn't oppose me going hunting, but he said, "I just don't understand why you and your brother like to hunt so much." But my mom was the one that took us and got us into it. My mom and her brother, they were farm girls from Indiana, and they made sure that we were fishing and hunting. But my first big game hunt, I joke about this, but it really is the truth. As a 5 and 6 year old boy, I was walking around the cattle pastures with my uncle's bear recurve shooting grasshoppers. That was to me big game as a 5 or 6 year old boy, walking around shooting grasshoppers. And I'd fill my pockets full of grasshoppers, and then I'd go to the farm pond and catch bluegill or bass, for the rest of the day with those grasshoppers. And it
nice.
just, that just built a fire in me from an age almost to the point, as early as I can remember.
Yeah, it's your well, your heritage,
It's
but
in
it's
your
also
DNA. Yeah.
it's in your DNA. I mean, I know that but my archery season in Maryland opens up in just a short couple of weeks, and I won't be up there that way till October because it's so damn hot. Uh, but yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's like I've never missed a hunting season. I think no, I didn't. I have not missed a hunting season since 1974, and I missed one rut and that was due to a couple of my kids deciding to get married during the rut, which
Oh,
I still bust
that's
their
funny.
chops. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank God they're done with all that. So we're good.
Yeah. Well, my first deer season was 1970. So I guess this will be what, 55, my 55th
Mhm.
deer season.
53 years for me. So
Yeah. It
it's
goes
just,
quickly.
yeah, it does. And I found my old hunter safety course cards from 1974, Luciano Sports Shop in Saddlebrook, New Jersey.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. It was 3 days,
Yeah.
three Saturdays that I went. These were long classes. I mean, we sat through several hours of lecture,
Yeah.
uh, classroom stuff. Then we shot
Yeah.
in a range and had to hit a pie plate.
Yep.
Um, it was just great stuff.
Yeah. My bow hunter education card, you go out of state, they ask you to see your bow hunter education to get a license. My bow hunter education card is serial number 00001.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
I was actually taught by Bill Wadsworth. He
Oh,
was
I
the
know the
founder.
name.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was the founder of the National Bowhunter Education Foundation. He was from New York, but yeah, serial number one.
that's crazy. I always heard that like it was a joke in a commercial for something when this lady goes, I'm so old that my social security number is 003. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So, Gene, what do you got? Well, you got a couple of hunts planned. You're basically gearing up yourself for the season coming.
Oh yeah. Oh
What's
yeah.
your opening day there? October 1st?
October 1st here in Indiana. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's usually again so hot. You got to go out, but it's so hot. I don't really want to kill something that early because of the weather. You got to hurry and get it cooled. Yeah, take it to my brother's cooler and hang it and all that. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't really want to kill something until it gets into that late, around Halloween.
Yeah.
That's when I really want to start putting some meat on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a new bear takedown here that I'm going to go out and fire up some arrows out of it. And
Yeah, I saw some pictures. Nice.
yeah.
Good for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I've had the riser for a while, but I wanted to get the matching green glass limbs to go with it. So
I love those green limbs.
my boy Travis hooked me up over there at stickbowsupply.com.
Yeah, he's just down the road here.
Yeah, I know. I talked to him the other night, actually on the phone for a short while. Um, yeah, you saw the pictures of the box, right?
Yeah,
When they were delivered, it got chewed up. I
yeah,
pulled those limbs out. They were perfect. I was like,
yeah.
wow, did I
You got
luck out?
lucky.
Yeah, big time. Big
Yeah.
time. Well, Jane, we're at an hour here. I want to thank you so much on behalf of Droptine Traditions Podcast for coming on. And folks, I will post Gene's information in the description below. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I really would appreciate it. Helps me bring you better content. Any parting words, Mr. Hopkins?
No, I just want to wish everybody a happy hunting this season and be safe and make the memories. That's to the trophy is in the memories.
Even if I don't shoot something, I just the other day I'm going through my phone. I have albums in my gallery, and I have my past 2 seasons hunting in upstate New York. I mean, during the peak of the fall colors in upstate New York, nothing like it, man. It's almost like I'm in a fireworks display.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's the campfires, it's the experiences,
Mhm.
it's Mother Nature, it's communing, it's the people you hunt with, it's the people you get to meet, the new friends you make.
Mhm.
Those are the trophies. Yeah, the antlers that we put on the wall are great and they're fun to look at, but the memories are all that's the true trophy.
Yeah, I look around, I see all my game animals and stuff, and I mentioned it in prior podcasts. What do we do with all our stuff, our trophies? I looked at that. My daughter, my one and only daughter, wants my game animals. Knock yourself out because it's in the will.
Well, I'll just this is the back part of my room back here. We haven't seen that yet, but there's a lot of a lot of critters up here. And when I
Yeah.
look at them, I don't think of the animal, I think of the hunt. I think of the people I was with. I was thinking of Ron Shear. Um, I took the lion with Ron Shear in Idaho, and he turned out to be one of the best friends I ever made in my life.
Mhm.
Um, so it's all about the memories and the people.
Now, when did Ron pass away?
It's been 5 or 6 years now.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, he was such a great man. Stories I could tell about Ron. If I were going to go into the wilderness and I could take one person with me, and it was going to be a trip that I knew I needed to, have some real survival skills,
Mhm.
Ron Shear would be the guy I'd take with me.
Okay.
He was a true mountain man.
Yeah, my hunting partner John Hutter, who's been on the podcast, I've been bow hunting with him over 25 years,
Yeah.
and that's the guy. He's
Yeah.
in his mid 70s, but I mean, yeah, survival skills. He's an encyclopedia of it.
Well, I was on the last elk hunt with Ron just before he passed away, and at the time, neither of us knew that he was going to be gone soon. But
Right.
that last elk hunt is something I'll always remember. I got to spend
Mhm.
that time with him in the Idaho mountains, and it's a treasure.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, the memories you can't erase them. They can't be erased. They're just there all the time.
So I'm trying to level out my camera here.
It's okay. So, what do you got planned for the rest of the day? I'm going to attend to a generator to make sure it starts
Ah,
because we have our first hurricane in the out in the ocean.
yeah. Well, we've got a bushel of green beans we're going to pack, but my mom's in the hospital.
Oh, I'm
We took
sorry.
her into the ER last night, and so I didn't get to bed about 2 last night. So I'll probably take a nap sometime this afternoon,
Mhm.
and then I'll go back in to see mom. She's having some trouble with her. She's 88. She fell and broke a bone in her back. She had some surgery on that, but I think when she fell, she hurt her hip too, and
Mm.
so they fixed her back, but now her hip is causing her a lot of pain. So she's in trying to figure out what's going on.
And I'll say a prayer for her speedy recovery
Yeah. Thank you.
in that. So, well, Gene, thanks again. I will catch up with you in the coming weeks.
Yeah,
Uh,
we'll see you in Indianapolis for sure.
oh, yeah, for sure. Folks, take care of each other, love each other, respect each other. And with that, on behalf of the Droptine Traditions Podcast, have a good afternoon. Thank you.